Hi guys, I'm Ella. I'm here with Eli and Ashley, and we are the C188 consulting firm hired by our client, the Valley Transportation Authority. Our goal is to do an analysis on the proposed locations of the BART Silicon Valley Extension project. We conducted an analysis to answer the questions: why are the new BART extension stations placed at these specific locations in San Jose, and what communities benefit most from the location of these stations? Our analysis delves into the aspect of location choice, focusing on the potential impacts and equity considerations involved. The approach we took was doing a site suitability analysis to help us determine the optimal location for BART stations. As a part of the analysis, we identified the slope using the DEM to raster and the raster to point technique. We used a network analysis to identify the walking accessibility to service areas around each station, estimating the population it serves. Then our final map was an equity analysis where we examined the distribution of underrepresented communities in proximity to the new BART stations to recognize the importance of equitable access to public transportation.
The first type of suitability analysis that we conducted was site suitability analysis, or finding the most suitable sites for placing our physical BART stations on. In order to do this, we first consulted the City of San Jose Spatial Team zoning districts data set, as well as the WebGIS San Jose terrain data, which gave us slope data. Using this slope data, we assigned positive values to the areas with the least slope and negative values to those with the most slope. And using the zoning districts, we were able to find zones that were optimal for placing BART stations on, namely industrial zones. We also created buffer regions around transit-oriented developments, which would be beneficial for placing nearby to BART stations. By summing all of these positive and negative weights up, we got the following suitability analysis. This site suitability analysis shows that our proposed BART stations are placed within the most suitable areas based on the slope and the zoning data. These are represented in green on the map, whereas surrounding areas represented in orange and red are least suitable.
In addition to our technical site suitability analysis, we also performed an equity suitability analysis. The constraints for the suitability analysis are an older population. So we took the census survey information and we took into account high populations of older communities, so older individuals. We also tried to include young individuals because both older and younger populations are less likely to have cars. And the areas that had very little old people or very little young people were excluded. We also excluded areas that did not suffer from high rent burden. So this means that these people are more likely to have cars. Pardon me. We also have a few opportunities. These opportunities are impoverished areas, areas with great and high levels of disabilities, and areas where households tend to not possess a car. These are indicative of populations that would greatly benefit from having access to public transportation. Our results show that the current BART stations were placed in socially suitable areas, which means that people who needed BART and used transit more often are serviced better. This part of analysis confirms that the agencies involved cited these BART stations in areas that are suitable based on the populations they are in proximity to, and that they are suitable because those who benefit mostly from higher accessibility to public transit will be served best by these new stations. We recognize that there are many other social costs and benefits involved in a complete equity analysis, but due as a result of our limitations such as access to population data and access to and a time constraint, because in order to do so, a mass survey would need to be distributed to the local area. And so in light of these limitations, this equity and suitability analysis suggests that this is a prime location in terms of serving the population. We then combined the technical suitability analysis and the suitability analysis to create a final suitability analysis. Both these suitability analyses reaffirm that these locations are likely the best locations for the new BART stations to be placed in. This new suitability analysis incorporates both the social aspects and the technical aspects such as zoning and other limitations that are less socially constrained. Therefore, these two social suitability models go well together and create a more comprehensive and cohesive suitability analysis, as shown in our map on the top right.
First and last mile accessibility to transit stations is a major issue facing U.S. public transportation. So placing these BART stations within walking distance of where people live is of vital importance, especially considering San Jose's current urban villages projects. In order to assess this, we used the service area analysis tool in the network analyst. in order to create boundaries where people could walk to the transit station from 10 to 20 minutes, within 20 to 30 minutes, or within 30 to 60 minutes. We found that there are 113 people within 10 to 20 minutes walking distance, 118 within 20 to 30 minutes, and 617 within 30 to 60 minutes, which amounts to 901 people living within an hour's walking distance of this BART station. This is much lower than we expected, especially with all of the planned urban village projects in San Jose. But while it's not promising, it doesn't count for a lot of things like bus service, which would likely serve a much larger ridership to the BART stations. Some of our limitations on this project included the fact that we had trouble accessing zoning data from ArcGIS Online because San Jose had strict ownership over the shapefiles. We also had trouble using the elevation and slope analysis. Because San Jose is so flat, the slopes really didn't make much of a difference, even though we still accounted for this in our suitability analysis. Finally, in our equity analysis, it is hard to weigh the benefits versus negative impacts on placing a BART station near low-income individuals. Proximity to BART stations can be seen as both a positive and a negative thing, but we are operating on the premise that low-income individuals would benefit by being close to transit because it would ideally eliminate the need for a car, but simultaneously would cause noise pollution. Without community outreach, it's not possible to weigh the impacts of proximity to BART stations that have not been built yet. Unfortunately, community outreach is outside the scope of this project.